What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to another episode of Ben Builds with Joe. We are back on our 1/48 scale Airfix Spitfire Mk.XIV, and today we're going to push forward a little bit and finish up these wings, get on those rear tails, and then see what else we can do with a bit of the fidgety parts, like the chin intake, maybe the wing radiators. Just want to make sure we get all those parts and pieces on. We also have to start off here with some seam filling, especially here around the wing root. So what we're going to do first is I want to grab some Mr. Surfacer. This is pretty decent stuff, I gotta say. We're also going to take some Q-tips, and I'm going to get a little bit of this nail polish remover, which has acetone in it. Like I do with most of my kits, we're going to go ahead and take a toothpick and we're going to just dab a little bit of that filler right into that seam. Now, I'm not going to try to eliminate the seam completely. I just want to go ahead and minimize it so it isn't so noticeable. So just a little bit of that Mr. Surfacer right in there, and we should be able to get this more or less taken care of. So a little bit of our Mr. Surfacer, we're just going to go ahead and draw it right along that edge, making sure to get that all nicely wedged in there. And once I am satisfied with that, I can then take a Q-tip. We're going to dip the end of it here in some acetone and just wipe it across. That's going to help to not only spread that putty, it's going to also clean up the area around it. So we're not going to have as much sanding as we normally would have. So that's kind of my process. If I want to just reduce a seam, that usually works pretty well. So let's go ahead and jump into a time lapse. We have the rest of the wing to go ahead and work on with that Mr. Surfacer. I want to start building up those tail surfaces, get those mounted, work on that chin intake, and then finally get those wing ailerons all nicely tacked into place. So let's start it up, see what we can do. So far so good, guys, but I gotta tell you, those rear tailplanes, oh man, they did not want to go in there at 90 degrees. They came in more like at 45 degrees. So I had to sand and cut out some of the plastic to make sure they went in there at 90 degrees. But those are taken care of, so we're going to shift over here to that chin intake. First thing we're going to have to do though is shave a little bit of plastic away from the inside of the wing area right here. Reason being is that there is a little bit of a tab that sticks down below that chin intake right here, and it just kind of conflicts with that. So shaving that out, this drops in a lot easier. So let's go ahead and test fit that, see how this works. Oh yeah, much better. Huge improvement. So I know that was one of the areas that had a little bit of issue, maybe a gap here or there. So this is a lot better. Now let's go ahead and grab up our super glue here, and I want to go ahead and just take a little bit and fill up a couple of seams. Now there's not a whole lot of areas that need super glue, at least none that I've seen so far, but I need to go ahead and take care of a few areas here and there. One of those areas is the underside here on that chin intake. We have to go ahead and fix up a couple of the seam lines. Now this is such a large intake, you're going to see a whole bunch of it there. So I want to go ahead and just make sure that that seam isn't as prominent. So we're going to go ahead and use that super glue to taper everything in. Now I'm also going to take some super glue and we're going to start working right here on the underside of the chin. I want to make sure that this seam here is just non-existent, so super glue is usually the best way to go ahead and do that. Luckily though, I'm using very fast drying super glue, so it shouldn't take too long to go ahead and cure. Now we have to go ahead and also do a little bit of work on the front of the wings. They're on those leading edges. I'm not sure if it was user error or if it just was really thick sprue attachment points there. I just have to go ahead and fix a couple of divots that were removed when I pulled those off the sprue. Nothing too bad really, to be honest. Like I said, the fit on this kit is pretty decent. But we're going to go ahead and jump into a time lapse, continue fixing up a few seams here and there, and then I want to go ahead and go over the entire aircraft with some sandpaper. I want to smooth everything out, make sure that we don't have any weird blemishes, just get everything nicely uniform. Then of course we want to go ahead and install that chin intake as well, so that should be fun. Back onto it guys, let's push forward. All right, everybody, we are back and the chin intake is all nicely installed. We are looking pretty decent on the seams, so I'm happy with how this is turning out so far. So now I thought I would go ahead and turn our attention over to the wing radiators. Now these are pretty simple. There's actually 3 parts per unit. So all we're going to do is we're going to cut off the one side here, pop it out of the sprue, and then we'll clean that up, and then we'll cut out the radiators and then glue them down, and then glue that whole subassembly right onto the wing. Now the intake radiators are actually really nicely molded, especially for plastic parts. We've got some 3D detail in there, and it looks very much like a radiator would. I don't think they would really benefit from any sort of updates or PE kits or anything like that. You're really not going to see them. They're pretty far buried up inside that housing. So again, I'm not really sure that going the full 9 yards and getting a bunch of PE updates and trying to update everything, I don't know if it would really help out all that much. For me, the most important thing that I want to focus on here is making sure that everything fits nice and flush. Now let's go ahead and grab those radiators and glue them down on the inside of the housing. Now I've noticed that these only really go in one way. So if you're worried or concerned about maybe putting them in backwards or flipping the parts around, you can only put these in one way because those tabs will only correspond to that one particular side. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow those instructions, and we're going to get those located right where they're supposed to be, using those tabs as excellent guides to get those right into place. And yeah, they fit really, really well. So a little bit of the Tamiya extra thin, we'll make sure these are nicely glued down, making sure they're nice and flush, and I think we'll be good to go ahead and glue that down to the underside of the wing. Let's go ahead and see how these fit onto the wing, and they should go right about here. Yeah, there we go. It actually fits really well in there, just drops right into place. So that is awesome. Now we're going to grab some glue, and I'm going to glue from the inside out. So this way I don't have to do too much sanding on the outside. I don't want to get glue everywhere. So I think I'll glue the inside, which should, hopefully, using that capillary effect, pull itself where it needs to go. Same thing with the front, just a little bit of glue on each inside to make sure that this is tacked down. Then we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Now this isn't actually the only bits and pieces to go on this. There's actually doors in the very back that we're going to need to go ahead and install, but I want to make sure that these are in place before I start sticking anything else on there. So we'll probably do that next episode. I love these radiators. They're just so big and massive, right? It just makes this Spitfire look mean for sure. So let's go ahead and do the next one, get that all put together and get that installed and glued down. The other side is exactly the same as the side we just did. Get those radiators cleaned up, glue them down to the inside of the unit, glue that unit right onto the wing. Super simple, no problem. But I think we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today, guys, until episode 6. Thank you so much for watching. I've done a lot of work. I'm very happy with the Spitfire so far. It's fitting beautifully. All the parts are going where they're supposed to, and I'm having a lot of fun building it. Make sure to head over to Joe's channel, though. Check out his build. He's doing a wheels up in-flight version of the Spitfire, and that should be really, really awesome. Can't wait to see that turn out. And until our next episode, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of Ben Builds with Joe for the Airfix 1/48 scale Spitfire Mk.XIV. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.